Hey, everybody. Welcome to Breakfast All Day. Matt, Christy here with Alonso. They have seen the new documentary about Billie Eilish, but I have not. So they will fill you in on it all.
Although I was hounding you all week to watch it.
I had to sit through Tom and Jerry, which you guys didn't. So I don't even want to hear about it. Where's my medal?
I know. I'm sorry. This is so much better.
I hope that your review for Tom and Jerry is just the
If I knew how to spell that, I thought it's pretty dreadful. Yeah.
Even like with the expectations that we had based on the fact that they just gave you the screener last night.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Worse than the Oogie Loves.
Well, I mean, I classes, as they say in my family. Yeah, they literally gave us the screening link at 7 p.m. on Thursday night for an embargo that lifted at 12:01 a.m. Friday morning for a movie that premiered on Friday. So it was like, okay, Warner Brothers, I see what you're doing. Anyway, so because of that and other commitments I had this week, I did not get to see the 2.5-hour Billie Eilish documentary.
It's 2:20.
Oh,
and there's an intermission.
Of course there is.
There is. So this is about Billie Eilish, and it follows her. It's this very intimate look at her career, which she's only like 19 years old, but it's from the time that her music starts getting played on the radio to her like sweeping all the Grammy categories that she was nominated in like 2-3 years later. And I was not really a big Billie Eilish fan at all prior to this. I did not get the allure of her. I'd heard Bad Guy and maybe a couple of other songs, but I didn't get it. And I knew she was a huge, huge superstar and super talented, super young, but I always thought she was just kind of breathy and didn't really sing. And so watching this was really eye-opening for me. I don't know, Matt, what you knew about her or thought about her, but I just did not get it. But she grew up here in LA, Highland Park, just east of downtown LA. And she and her brother Finneas, who's her collaborator, producer, co-writer, who is 4 years older than her, homeschooled. They were surrounded by musical instruments their whole lives. Their parents are both musicians and really encouraged that in them from a young age. And I gained such an appreciation for her artistry and her commitment to this and her musicianship. And then as she gets bigger and as she's playing bigger and bigger shows, including Coachella, like just her incredible poise and professionalism. All throughout this thing, there's this through line of her leg injury. She had been a dancer for a long time. And she wants to like jump up and down and just go for it on stage and give people the best possible show. But her body doesn't always let her do that. And so her pain and her management of her pain is a constant. And how she handles that is just incredible for somebody so young to have the stage presence that she has. And it's not totally worshipful. This is from director RJ Cutler. And it's very intimate. And it definitely gives you an appreciation for what she has accomplished. But you also see, angsty teen stuff, like she's having, misunderstandings with her boyfriend and, text exchanges that leave her feeling sad. And maybe she doesn't feel like doing a meet and greet. And so she's kind of sullen and withdrawn and complains to her mom. And all she wants is a car when she turns 16. I'm sure you appreciate this, Matt, as a car guy. The car of her dreams is out there. But still, she's...
Then they're like, yeah, we didn't get the fastest version. I was like, yep, smart.
But they got her like a really sporty, cool car that she wants. There's a hilarious thing that happens backstage at Coachella with Katy Perry that I don't want to tell you any more about because you got to experience it. I laughed hysterically at that, but it was really, really eye-opening, and I really came to appreciate her. And if I were a 13-year-old girl, I'm sure I love her. And it's fascinating, you guys, to watch this in contrast with the Britney Spears documentary from just a couple of weeks ago and how different their meteoric rises were at age 16, 17, and how differently they're packaged and how differently they've been able to handle that kind of scrutiny and fame, or not.
There's a lot of really interesting stuff going on in here that I really liked, although from time to time, like, it does drag. But there's a lot of interesting insights in this that I haven't seen get covered in these other types of documentaries. Now, this is of a piece of the Justin Bieber doc and the Katy Perry doc, where it's it isn't warts and all. It is for the most part like, look how hard they work. Everybody's awesome. Everybody around them is awesome.
The Taylor Swift one.
And that's not a bad thing, right? I'm not saying that that's bad, but it's 2 hours, 20 minutes of that's maybe a little much. It is interesting to see what it's like for someone like her, who Eilish has this very supportive family. And I think it makes a big difference for her that her brother is making music with her. I mean, the stuff where she and her brother are putting songs together, and Finneas is such an amazing producer, and the beats he puts together are astounding. That stuff's like candy to me. I could watch people write music kind of all day.
It was cool watching their process, huh? And then watching how beautifully their harmonies blend. And it gets into that same thing as the Bee Gees documentary we watched, right?
Right. There's
the sisterly, brotherly blend there.
Sibling close harmony is something unmatched by anyone else. And as somebody who loves music and is not really a musician, watching people write songs that almost in any way, it's like watching wizards perform magic. It's I love that. But the things that I was really struck by in this was, one, the way there's a moment where Eilish's mother talks about how, there's sometimes blowback, like, oh, her songs are all dark and you're a teenager. And she goes through this litany of things like, well, shit, why wouldn't a teenager be depressed at this point, right? Like, you've got this and that and politics and all that. Like, she goes through this whole list of stuff and it's like, oh, yeah, okay. Because she talks about how easier, people our age had as teenagers. I mean, that's the other funny thing. Gabe is like a year younger than Billie Eilish.
Does he like Billie Eilish's music?
Sort of. He's in a big rap phase right now. So he's more into that. But my wife really likes her music, and I do too. And for me, the beats were the entry point. But her lyrics are really clever. Like, she really, I think she's punching above her weight with her lyricism. The song where she's counting, I think, is very clever. That's a really good song. But that's called
Wish You Were Gay. Wish You Were Gay is that song, right?
Yeah. The other two things that I thought were really fascinating in this was, and I know people have pointed this out before, she dresses like a person who doesn't want anyone to see her body. And I'm not casting judgment on that, but it's interesting to watch. Like, she is almost always in baggy clothes, right? She does not want anyone looking at her body at all. I had no idea that she had Tourette's. And,
I didn't either. Yeah.
Right. And it becomes this clue when she's getting overworked, because, it'll start to manifest itself. The other thing, and this is not a spoiler as to what happens with Katy Perry, but there is a point where Perry says something about, if you ever need to talk about all of this, give me a call. And Bieber, there's a Justin Bieber appearance, and he basically says the same thing. And that made me think, like, God, there's an amazing, I would love to get some folks like that and Britney Spears, in a room together without any of their followers and just compare those stories. Yeah. Like, there's a fascinating discussion to hear there.
I thought it was really generous of Katy Perry, I thought, to extend that kind of invitation to her. And I love the evolution of her relationship with Justin Bieber. That's all I'm going to say, because it goes places.
Yeah. And, look, like, does the movie do a good job of making her seem amazing? Absolutely. Right. And look, like, you don't win that many Grammys for not having some level of talent. I mostly like this. Again, it kind of drags, and I think it loses momentum kind of in the middle. But I did really enjoy watching her process and kind of that peek behind the scenes, even though it's obviously fairly staged, or if not staged, like certainly you're not cutting in the really shitty stuff.
No. And that's what you get with that kind of intimate access. Right. I want to go back to the point you made about the clothes, which is so interesting. And it is also an interesting contrast with Britney Spears. Right. And how they either package themselves or were packaged by others to have a certain kind of persona to extend to young girls, to be appealing.
Right.
Or Katy Perry, right.
Katy Perry, right.
Right. And so also how different technology is and the music industry is now compared to 20 years ago when Britney Spears came up. Whereas, you know, she went a very traditional route of like auditioning in New York for the right people. And Billie Eilish is making beats in her bedroom with her brother and putting it on Spotify and SoundCloud. That's really interesting too. But the fact that she is just as worshipped in her own way for her like street gear and the big logos and the baggy sweats versus Britney, who presented a totally impossible ideal rather of female beauty.
And that had come up in the Taylor Swift
different
thing, right? Where because there's a point in the Taylor Swift movie where she's like, yeah, you know what? I'm not starving myself anymore. Right. Yeah. I'm not worried about it. And
she becomes happier.
And, you know, I can't help but think that that's a conscious choice. And again, like not passing judgment, but you very rarely hear anyone discussing that part about Billie Eilish. There was something a couple months back where she had like worn a tank top or something and it was a big story, but for the most part, nobody talks about it. There was that moment where she starts jumping up and down. And then after the show, she's complaining about how her legs hurt. I turned to my wife, I'm like, shin splints. And sure enough, the doctor's like, yeah, you got shin splints. And then you see her doing all that. And I did like the moment where she's really been out of shape in Milan because she can't give them the show that she wanted to give them. The Milanos don't care. Like they're like fine.
They're just psyched to see her, right?
Right.
You know, she just sat on the edge of the stage and just sang "They'd Be Pumped," but she's got such pride and ownership of her vibe, of her persona. Anyway,
are people who live in Milan named Milanos, or are you thinking of the cookie?
I call them Milanos because they are delicious, like the cookie. The other thing
Milanos
that
in Milan
is a little, you know, it's a bummer to see is that, you know, she's still got and unlike a lot of people, she's willing to say it in public on stage. Like, I don't understand why you guys are here. I don't know what's going on. You know, why are you here to love me? And, you know, you hope at some point that somebody like that gets past that feeling or learns to not keep hearing that voice. Right. Cause because no amount of achievement's ever going to shut that down.
Yeah. How much of that is being a teenage girl and just feeling the basic insecurities of being a teenage girl in the world?
Exactly.
Maybe she'll grow up and learn to own it. You know, she certainly should. Anyway, I'm saying 8.5. I dug it. I now like Billie Eilish.
Yeah, I was probably a little low. I'm going to go up to an 8.
Okay, so we're 8.3 together. This is on Apple TV Plus starting today, and it's. If you're in a place where theaters are open and you want to go see it in IMAX and feel comfortable doing that, it's in IMAX. Also, it is streamable through Neon, through various local theaters. So go look online. You can find a place to watch
cinemas.
Or if you're watching it at home, have the stereo on, have good sound because it's worth it.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, you guys. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And why not check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Wrapping up Bridgerton, keeping up with WandaVision. And this week we're doing our off the menu review, a film that was picked by our subscribers for us to talk about. And that will be Casey Lemon's Eve's Bayou from 1997. So that should be a fun chat. All right. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.